The best tornado chasing game on Roblox just got an update, right on time for primetime tornado chasing season, and now that we've waited a few days for necessary patches to come out, it's time to review the update. The Twisted 1.21 Inflation and Inconvenience update is finally out after a 9-month wait, and it changes a hell of a lot about the game. Everything from light throw to risk probabilities has changed. I mean, vehicles can now be damaged, but somehow being thrown around by a tornado doesn't do damage, I swear. And now that my muscle memory has been thoroughly destroyed, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with this major update. In my opinion, the biggest upgrade with this update is the fact that the game now loads damn near instantly. The longest part of joining the game is finding a server now, since all the good ones are full. Never before have I seen so many servers all open, without crashing too. Look, these servers have been open for practically ages. Previously, servers would only stay open for a few hours max, now they practically don't crash. It would be hilarious though if they never crashed, and the game reached a point where all servers had the entire map destroyed. Whoops. But after clicking join, the game takes only a few short moments to load. Apparently they rewrote most of the game's codebase for this update, and thank God, because waiting 3 minutes for the game to load was just plain awful. I'm not sure what they did to improve it this much, but I know I'm not the only Twisted player who's thankful for it. RAM requirements are down too, from 5 or 6 gigs to just 3 or 4. Not only does that mean that the game generally performs better, but servers are much more reliable now. While it was fine for me seeing Roblox using 6 gigs of RAM because my computer has plenty of it, players on lower end or older hardware aren't nearly as happy giving 80% of their memory to the game. Especially since some companies still think it's okay to ship 8 GB of RAM in a premium product in 2024. Looking at you, HP and Apple. And of course, I need to talk about the performance. It's downright incredible. The footage from my previous Twisted video was rather choppy, but as of writing this, I've gotten almost double the frame rate. Roblox is saying I'm idling at a steady 60, which is awesome. The game is outright flying now. It still does chug a little bit when in densely populated areas or inside a tornado, but for the most part it is so much more playable. Now what's funny is that even on 1.20, my phone had nearly identical performance to my PC now, including the 5-second load times. And my phone still maintains a rock-solid 60 FPS. Now if only it could utilize the 120Hz screen. Using LEDs and shit really does help the game a lot. Spawning once again at the prior gas station, the lighting is different. Someone turned ray tracing on. Overall, I think the lighting changes are nice. Makes the game look much nicer generally. We'll get to the bad parts of the lighting later. The entire UI is redesigned with a new design language while keeping the same feel and buttons in the same place. Muscle memory hasn't been destroyed yet. Going in to spawn a car... Wait, why is it different? Actually, you know what? I think this is better. It's the same amount of clicks to spawn a car or interceptor as in 1.20, and the spawning UI is now all in one place. Now if only the UI was aligned correctly. Vehicles have many more stats, and they're much easier to spot now. Acceleration, top speed, wise wind resistance or range, it's all in one easy spot. Plus, variants of vehicles are now shown too, but I don't quite understand the logic behind making the older TIV2s cost more money. I think the 2023 TIV2 is the best value because of its lower deploy time. Tons of new vehicles have been added, but I can't find them because all the names have been fictionalized. I love the Sumo Woodlands XT. Let's go ahead and spawn in the classic TIV1 because I don't grind this game enough and get to chasing. I still don't have enough money for the TIV2 and probably never will now thanks to inflation. Using the 30k free insurance claim helped a bit though. Thanks, Will. Only 85k to go. I don't know if I'm going crazy, but the TIV1 feels a lot slower to brake and especially to accelerate now. I suspect the new remade driving mechanics are to blame here. And coupled with the new steering that is either too sensitive or way too sensitive, like seriously, why is it always acting like I am jolting the wheel around? Driving takes a little bit to get used to. Signals, hazards, and horns, which are a toggle for some reason, are here now as well, and I keep getting honked at for not using my signals. The complete opposite of real life. What's next? Game going to fine you for going over 65 on county roads and 35 in a city? No, don't give them ideas, Senti. Look at that blue tint. Isn't it awesome? Apparently it's caused by hail in the real world, but I don't think it's nearly to this extent. It's very blue out here. My entire screen is more blue tinted than an illegal Dodge Challenger's windshield. Awesome. Speaking of windshield, look how the cars have been changed. Pretty much every car looks much nicer now, partially due to the new graphics, but also partially because almost every car got new details in its model. Tiv 1 isn't one of those though, it sucks. Vehicles look much better now, that's always a good thing. Tornadoes look pretty similar. I don't think they've changed how tornadoes are rendered all too much, at least not from afar. Storms now have tail clouds, and while I'm not a meteorologist, I can still appreciate how cool it looks, especially when the tornado hasn't fully formed yet. Rain wrapping and debris clouds are now a thing, and I'll be honest, I haven't noticed much of a difference. Screenshots posted on the Twisted Discord show some crazy effects though. Apparently I haven't been lucky enough to see these. Once near the tornado ready for an intercept though, the funnel cloud, trust me, I'm trying to use the right terminology here, starts to fade away, and it becomes much harder to really confirm when you're in it. Realistically, I don't think there's a strict boundary for in the tornado, but I've also never intercepted one myself. Inside the tornado is now extraordinarily dark. Previously, it was light as day when in a tornado, but now as you get closer to the center of it, ambient light lowers, making it very dark even when in broad daylight. From what I can tell, this is a more realistic, and blatantly just cool looking change, so I approve. Probes have also changed for the better. I think they make more money now, but I can't tell after all the patches where they nerfed and then buffed and then nerfed and buffed, and I can't tell. Much like the vehicles, they are also much more detailed and overall look a lot better, another welcome change. A handful of new probes also exist, including the Toto probe that inspired Dorothy from Twister. There doesn't seem to be much of a difference between any of the probes besides interesting prices, but I wouldn't be surprised if the more expensive probes have higher income or health. You can also now outright delete probes entirely, which is useful when they have low health or you just don't want to drive across the map to pick them up. New sounds also exist across the entire game, from footsteps to rolling thunder, lightning no longer blasting out my eardrums, debris sounds, houses exploding, it's all great. I can always appreciate some good sound design in games, and Twisted's sound design game just went up by several points. It's great being able to hear debris flying around and looking behind me to see a house exploding. Previously, strong tornadoes could fling debris that could be seen for miles, and now the effect is amplified. Listen to the sounds while I'm in a tornado or while getting ready to intercept here. Looking on the radar, storms seem to form much more textbook-like now. Easy to spot hooks are the big one here, but sometimes the storms just end up looking like a goddamn penis. Despite all the blue tints, strangely enough, I haven't seen many hail cores on radar since the update. Only time I see deep purples and blues on reflectivity is large debris balls, which oddly enough fit with the phallic-shaped storms. Oh yeah, multiple storms can coexist now too, sometimes merging into each other. I don't know if this could happen before, but I just noticed that radar now accurately shows the direction of the wind. The line where velocity changes from green to red now actually makes sense. Storms overall seem to be a little weaker now, generally taking much longer to form as well. Doesn't mean I haven't seen powerful storms though. Naturally, in my overzealous chases, my Tiv 1 has been rolled more than ever in this update with insane wind spikes that should probably be changed. And I've even seen a handful of EF5s. Maybe they do exist. And now that it starts to get dark out, I find myself struggling to see even with a flashlight. It's as effective as a laser pointer, and car headlights are now as effective as flashlights, being awfully nerfed. The throw is so little that I'm going to be finding myself crashing into more trees than ever before, which was already a ton. And crashing into trees isn't exactly what I want to do with the new vehicle damage system in play. It means that when I crash into trees because I can't see and shouldn't be going 100 miles an hour on the freeway at night, I now take considerable body damage, which has to be repaired at a repair station, which are often in nonsensical places. Why is there a repair station in Mizpah, but not Hibbing or Prior Lake? And chaser vehicles only have one repair station east of Hazleton. That sucks. It ends up becoming a major inconvenience that discourages chasing huge tornadoes unless you know you'll end up near a repair station, and especially discourages core punching, as hail does incredible damage. 4 categories of damage exist: body, wheels, suspension, and engine. Each category affects how the vehicle drives and performs. And while I've yet to completely wreck a car, I think it would make sense that high engine damage reduces top speed, high suspension damage reduces off-road performance, wheel damage reduces steering ability or increases hydroplaning probability, and body damage reduces wind resistance. On the subject of hydroplaning, that's now also a thing. Well, I suppose it is semi-realistic for vehicles to hydroplane or aquaplane or whatever. In intense rain, there's no visual indicator for when it's possible to hydroplane and twist it. It just happens and often makes you lose all of your speed. Of course, it's a bad thing in the real world too, but I think there should be some kind of indicator or make it possible to recover. And why does it happen outside of rainy areas too sometimes? Rating damage has also changed significantly too. Previously, there was a selection of damage modes based on the type of building or whatever you were rating. Now, I actually have to input the estimated wind speeds myself. Still an upper bound to it though, still can't rate a damaged roof as EF5 with 225 mile-an-hour winds. I can also now add comments. Neat! I think it's slightly more confusing though if you aren't well versed in how damage is rated if you actually want to follow the guidelines, but essentially it's still the same system. Input the biggest number the game lets you. Game still rates the tornadoes. Why don't we just go for a drive to calm down, staying slow to avoid the hydroplaning? Oh wait, the TIV-1 sucks to drive. Always has. Always served as a stepping stone to the TIV-2 or DOM-3. When 1.21 first launched, the brakes on the TIV-1 were so awful that I found it easier to use the parking brake whenever I wanted to slow down, especially in reverse. Luckily, that's since been fixed now, so only the acceleration and steering sucks, just like before. Cruise control is much more sensitive now though. Sometimes I tap A or D and it turns off without me noticing. I don't know why they made it more sensitive to turning off, but I'd rather my cruise control not disengage because I'm following the road. Manual stage deployment is now an option, but it seems very buggy at the moment. You still have to just use the auto option if you want to actually deploy. The parking brake also occasionally goofs things up, sometimes being forced to respawn the entire vehicle. Besides, with more than a half dozen stages on vehicles like the Dow or TIV-2, auto deployment still seems much faster. At least the animations are nicer. Deployment sounds got removed though. They also attempted to add transmission simulation to the game, but as far as I could tell it's since been removed. I imagine they'll add it back in a future patch, but as of writing it's gone. Even in manual transmission mode, there's only PRND, no gearing. Drive is a single gear. Whatever you say, Twisted. And Twisted says everything is expensive. I think they increased the fuel tank capacity on most of the cars, and now, oh god, spending $400 to fill up the Dow 6 is scary. Fueling times take forever, too, spending what seems like 5 minutes at the gas pump. I understand this game is supposed to have some elements of realism in it, but is there really no way to change this? Gas prices now more closely match real life. In other words, you better hope your probes make you money. With repairs, fueling, and increased prices, inflation has finally caught up to Kisoda, and now it's hard to keep a living. And while things continue to be inconvenient, some of the map changes. Quite a few questionable decisions here that I can only imagine are either future-proofing or just plain silly. Like, why is player highlighting a toggle now? Why the hell does the cursor freeze while moving the map? Like, what? And why does the map move speed not change while zoomed in? I have to slow my mouse movements down considerably when zoomed in. I am smoking insane amounts of copium here to believe that this was just a tremendous oversight. If it's not, I'd love to hear the logic behind it. Radar sight and product selection in the bottom right is now a pair of drop-down menus that's also conveniently too cramped. There's only 2 radar sights and 2 products. 2 toggles would work just fine here, like before. And the map legend is a toggle, why can't that be a drop-down? Again, I can only imagine it's for future-proofing reasons, with the possibility of adding more radar sights and products in the future. But for now, it just doesn't make sense. Pick one design language or another. And on mobile, the map is somehow even worse. Instead of the cursor freezing, when I let go of the screen, the map just continues to move at the same velocity. Who thought that was a good idea? The already cramped UI gives me claustrophobia on mobile on my small phone screen. I am impressed at this point. At least they have a separate driving UI that doesn't take too much screen real estate on mobile. Using separate gas and brake pedals is better, but I keep fat fingering the steering buttons, often not steering at all. There aren't a ton of game-breaking issues in this update, really. Besides the infuriating map controls and deployment bugs and shitty TIV-1 driving, most all the changes are for the better. So after that moderately angry rant, let's go ahead and wrap up with some final thoughts. such a long wait, I think they did deliver on this update. The changes made to visual fidelity wowed me just as much as when I first played the game back in August. Back then, a friend lent me his TIV 2 to drive around for my first time playing, showing me how to get a good intercept. I still do like this game, and this update comes so close to being truly amazing, but some of these changes are so questionable that I'm gaslighting myself into believing they're not intentional. I haven't covered all the changes in this update, and that's a job for people like Tofu to do. I'm just here to share my thoughts on the update. I fully expect future updates to the game, and fully expect them to continue to push the Roblox engine to its limits. I look forward to 1.22, however many months out that is, and will review it just the same. Maybe by then I'll have a TIV 2 instead of this awfully long TIV 1. Twisted continues to easily be the best storm chasing game on Roblox, perhaps even the best storm chasing game period, despite its flaws. It's still just that good at its core purpose, which only improved in this update. I'm going to continue playing the game, and continue throwing myself into a tornado or four. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. And as always, thanks for watching.